Well, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, Dunnigan. A lot of people are talking about the fact that maybe the U.S. Mint is stockpiling them on behalf of the government, who exhausted its strategic stockpile of silver decades ago. Look, we understand that silver is used copiously in industrial applications that are expanding in digital and electronic applications, in solar panels, in battery-powered vehicles, and all of these things. But remember, there's 500 ounces almost to the button in the tip of every Tomahawk cruise missile, and all these advanced weaponry applications in terms of guidance systems. There's a tremendous amount of silver. It should be a strategic metal. And maybe this is why we saw India import 304 million ounces of it this year. And so when you talk about conspiracies, they made about 14 million silver eagles this year. In 2012, 13, and 14, they were making 40 plus million a year. And so their ability to make as much as 4 times as many silver eagles, and Janet Yellen told us they ramped up capabilities this year. It's befuddling. Maybe they are stockpiling it. Maybe they are accumulating it and stockpiling it on behalf of the U.S. government. It doesn't make sense that we are able and have been able for 3 years to get coins from across the Atlantic Ocean much easier and much less expensive the entire time than we have been the American Eagle. As one of only 24 U.S. Mint authorized resellers in the world, it has been ridiculously difficult. And the fact that the premiums haven't come back down, but all the other 5 sovereign mints have, Austria, Australia, South Africa, United Kingdom, and Canada, they're all fraction of a premium compared to the American Eagle. And it's very befuddling. And I think it lends itself to those types of, I don't know if you call it a conspiracy theory, but that type of thought process where, well, maybe that's exactly what they're doing. They finally realize how important it is, and they're stockpiling it and suppressing the paper price to accumulate as much of the physical silver at a subsidized price as they can. Because in the end, look at what the countries like China are doing, massively accumulating commodities. They're not just accumulating gold and silver, they're accumulating aluminum and zinc and wheat and soybeans and oil. And I mean, all of the things that you would need, they're accumulating. And that's a very, very big, it's not just them. I mean, look at Turkey. We talk a lot about Turkey, who joined the BRICS nations or formally applied for the BRICS nations. And in January alone, first of all, they were the largest importer of gold in the world in 2022. And in January, they imported almost 59 tons of gold. That's the most gold that the Swiss refineries have ever exported in a month. And so you're looking at countries that are looking at gold and silver. And Turkey, by the way, has imported a tremendous amount of silver as well. These are countries that are realizing just how important it is to accumulate things that in the end are what you need to advance your society. One of the things that Ed Steer put up that I found very interesting the other day was the chart of India's gold imports. We talk a lot about their silver imports of 304 million ounces last year, which is more than the COMEX market has, almost 10 times more than the registered category. But if you look at the amount of cumulative imports, and you can Google this, it pops right up, it blew me away. Since 1999, and this is documented, India has imported more than 17,170 metric tons of gold. Now, that for a second, that's twice what the United States supposedly has at Fort Knox. And we're supposedly the largest holder of gold. Alistair, who you're with next hour, talks about China having 38,000 metric tons of gold by his measurements, of which the state owns 20 and the people owns 18. Of this 17,000 metric tons of gold, obviously a lot of it is not to the government, but to the people. But how much do we really know? And when we see these governments copiously accumulating gold and silver while we poo-poo it in the West, maybe they finally have woken up to the fact that, geez, we better start doing this ourselves. And we'll tell the world that we've ramped up production, but we're only going to make 14 million silver eagles. Now that sounds like a lot, but it's at least 25% only 25% of what they have shown in the past they have the capability of doing. And I just think maybe they are waking up. And I want to mention one other thing that has given me a little bit of optimism, if you will. I talk a lot on your show and others about how it has been the acquisition of gold by the central banks of the world, buying more gold than at any time in the last 55 years, and the second most in history. We talk about China and India and all of the importation that they're doing. But I don't think that really wakes people up. Sure, it wakes up the people we're talking to, which represent the pimple on the elephant's rear end. The elephant hasn't figured it out yet, but God bless some of these states that are waking up and might light the fuse, if you will, to awakening people, such as the state of Missouri and such as the state of Wyoming, who just passed bills to accept gold and silver. We talked about this on your show last week as legal tender for debts public and private. It's the same thing as being proposed in the state of Kansas. There are right now lawmakers in 42 states that have already removed all or some taxes on the purchase of gold and silver, and there are now bills pending in 5 of the 8 states. Of course, Minnesota is not one of them where I come from, but 5 of the 8 remaining states that still charge sales tax, they're removing it. Mississippi just did, so now we can take that out of the 5 of the 8. They were one of the 5. They just passed legislation to remove sales tax. That goes into effect in July.